What's good, people? Thank you, as always, for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. All right, so I got a good question come in the other day. And the question was, is British boxing currently in a slump? I immediately responded to that question and said yes. But let's discuss it. What do you guys think, first and foremost? Is British boxing in a slump? You know what made me say yes? I was watching that Next Gen show put on by Matchroom on the weekend, the one in Peterborough. And look, first and foremost, some good fights on the show. I'm not going to discredit anyone that was on the card. I think with some good fights. I think Jordan Gill proved that he might be one of the ones to come through, one of the ones that we're looking to come through in the next couple of years. But nonetheless, I was thinking as I was watching it that this is prime time Saturday evening, right? This is prime time Saturday evening, Matchroom show, Sky Sports, and we're getting fed a Next Gen card. 2 years ago, let's be honest, this happens on a weekday, Bethnal Green, York Hall, and if you tune in, you tune in. But this is prime time Saturday evening viewing. And that is what made me say yes. Because Matchroom are considered one of the biggest, if not the biggest promoters in the world right now. And that's what they're feeding us on a Sky Sports weekend, 7 o'clock. And sorry, a couple of years ago, that doesn't even happen. That doesn't even happen. So that made me think that we're in a slump. And then I started doing a bit of research and started looking at what it was like 2 years ago. Because I do think that we all have this, and I do it all the time. Oh, a couple of years ago, it was much better, but let's speak a bit of facts. And I was doing some research, and currently right now, and you know, there is an argument to say quality over quantity, and I 100% agree with that, by the way. But currently right now, we have 5 world champions. 5 legit world champions, no regular belts, no interims, legit. So we've got Anthony Joshua, Callum Smith, Cal Yafai, Charlie Edwards, and Josh Warrington, all decent fighters. Of those, I would say that you can make an argument say that Callum Smith's the number 168 pounder. He is the ring recognized number 1, although, don't know, it's tough. I mean, Ramirez has been world champion for ages, and Caleb Plant looks decent as well. And Anthony Joshua, it's tough. Some people will say Deontay Wilder's number 1, but Anthony Joshua has 4 belts. So let's say of those 5, 2, I think legit are the number 1s in their division. Warrington's coming up, but he's not. Charlie Edwards just got the belt, and Cal Yafai is in a frightening division, frightening. 2 years ago to this date, we had, I think I counted 14 world champions. 14. Again, I will repeat myself. Sometimes it is quality over quantity, but nonetheless, we had 14. And there are as follows. George Groves was WBA super middleweight champion. Cal Yafai still is and was at the time WBA super flyweight champion. AJ at the time was IBF heavyweight world champion. Tony Bellew, WBC cruiser. James DeGale, IBF super middleweight. Billy Joe Saunders, WBO middleweight. Liam Smith, WBO light middleweight. Kell Brook, IBF welterweight. Ricky Burns, WBA light welterweight. Terry Flanagan, WBO lightweight. Lee Selby, IBF super featherweight. And Lee Haskins, IBF bantamweight. At the time, Anthony Crolla had just lost his belt as well to Linares, so it could have been more. And Tyson Fury was going through his issues where he got stripped of the IBF, but then he relinquished or was going to get stripped of his other belts. That's how many world champions we had 2 years ago. And we've got 5 now. I mean, boy. And not only that, but 2 years ago, we didn't just have those world champions. We had other big names floating around as well. Other big names that didn't have belts, or other big names that had regular belts, kind of like the Scott Quiggs of the world, that were floating around. McDonald, I think Gavin McDonald had a regular belt as well. So there were guys floating around that were close to being world champions. And I look at the scene right now, and I do think that we have some very, very good kids coming through, but there's now a gap between our world champions and the good kids coming through, right? There's a gap where it's going to take, I don't know, maybe a year and a half for them to get to where the other 5 guys are. It could be sooner when you look at the likes of Josh Kelly, we keep speaking about, maybe Fowler, Anthony Yard, is he going to do anything? Nathan Gorman, Dubois, Jordan Gill that we saw, Ryan Burnett, is he going to win a belt back again? So there are other guys, but the gap now is big. And it's concerning. For me, it is pretty concerning. So I do think that we are on a slump. I do think that there are some kids coming through that could do something in the next year and a half. That's what I give for the likes of Boatse and Akoli and those guys. But when you compare it to what it was 2 years ago, I mean, proof's in the pudding. I just mentioned, I think, 14 world champions. We're now in a situation where we've got five, which is concerning, right? And I just feel like maybe it was last year and the year before, and we only can judge it on those years. There seemed to be big show after big show after big show. You can't see any massive fights on the horizon. And an indication of that is Crawler versus Loma. A year ago, or even 2 years ago, I think that Eddie Hearn would have tried to get that fight in the UK. He would have tried to get that fight in the UK. Now the fight's happening in America. Even though Crawler is the challenger, I still think a couple of years ago, he would have wrote the check to get Loma over here. And it would have been a massive fight. Right now, it doesn't seem like we're getting these big fights anymore. Maybe I'm just being greedy because last year was fantastic, especially the end of last year when you think of Bellew Usyk and Josh Warrington, Frampton, and Dillian White versus Giselle. We had a good end to the year. Deontay Wilder, although it happened in America, it still felt like a big British thing. But right now, it doesn't seem like we're getting these things. Right now, it doesn't seem like we're getting them. BT Sports have got their big show coming up with Yard, Dubois, Williams, and Matchroom keep talking about this March Madness. So it's not all negativity. But again, if you are comparing it to what I just did 2 years ago, and even comparing it to last year, no one's going to convince me that we're not in some sort of a slump. And we are not looking for the next big thing. I mean, in the last sort of 12 months, a lot of good fighters, and in terms of big names, have retired. Bellew, Hay, George Groves, DeGale. And right now, we don't have any fighters coming up to fill their space right now. We might have in 12 months, but that's 12 months. Right now, we don't. So it's just going to be interesting going forward what happens with British boxing. I wanted to get to where we were 2 years ago with all those world champions and all big fights happening in the UK. Right now, Tyson Fury said he's going to fight in America. We know that 5-fight deal. He'll have 5 fights in America. AJ's going to America. So 2 of our biggest stars have left these shores as well. So are we in a slump? Yes. Will we get out of it? Yes. But it's a slump nonetheless. What do you guys think? Let me know. Peace.